You are listening to Married to the Game. I am Joe Skirtle alongside Brian Bolster and Nick MacDaddy Mac. And I started off all last week, admitted that the Rams were kind of good. And from the great movie of The Waterboy, we suck again as they lose against the 49ers. Nick Mullins and the 49ers JV squad. I guess this is what happens when I pick the Rams because we all know I'm always against them, even though they've been pretty successful, as Brian has told me numerous times over the last 3 years. 40 wins around there. It's pretty good. But you lose against a JV squad in the Niners. And I know they got some weapons back with Samuel and Raheem Mostert, but still, like Nick Mullins, he outplayed Jared Goff. Jared Goff was absolutely terrible. I can go on and on. I could probably go the whole entire episode talking about how bad Jared Goff played. But was this just a bump in the road? I'm not going to say that the Rams are going to lose 5 straight and I was going to be right, their 7-9 prediction. But, Brian, what the hell happened here with the Rams losing to this Niners team?
The 49ers are coached by Kyle Shanahan. He's an absolutely great coach. Now, I can't lie. It's an absolutely awful look to lose to Nick Mullins, and Jared Goff was absolutely awful, as he is from time to time. But if I'm a Rams fan, don't panic. The defense is still good. They've got Woods and Kupp. They are primed for a playoff berth. Who knows after that? But don't panic. And I know I don't want to be too hard on you there, Joe. I know Jets fans aren't used to winning, and maybe it's gotten to the point where you guys think the goal is to lose. But the Rams, they're doing all right? And maybe just relax on them.
For me, there was a glaring issue on the offense besides the turnovers from Jared Goff, and that was the split of carries between Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. Now, Cam Akers carried the ball 9 times for 84 yards, and Darrell Henderson carried the ball 10 times for 19 yards. Do the math. That's not good. Why not feed Cam Akers more, move the ball in the running game? They got away from it. Cam Akers was clearly having the more successful day on the ground. They didn't utilize him enough in the passing game either to get Jared Goff going. And, again, they choked. And, Joe, I feel like you jinxed yourself last week, saying the Rams were pretty good. And here they go, blowing a game to Nick Mullins and the San Francisco 49ers, making that defense look like a Super Bowl defense again.
Now, the Rams do have the Cardinals, a floundering team, 2 more times before the season's in. The Patriots, who you never want to count out Bill Belichick, but the Patriots have not been good. And then your New York Jets. So are you willing to go far enough to say that Jared Goff and the Rams suck so bad that Sam Darnold and the Jets might actually get their first win?
No way. I'm not saying the Rams suck. I think they're just overrated. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. They're a playoff team. I will admit that. But I'm just tired of people dancing around like Jared Goff is like this great quarterback again. I think my hatred is more towards Jared Goff than the Rams as a whole because I love McVay. I love Aaron Donald. How can't you? I think Cooper Kupp's an excellent receiver. Robert Woods, he's been doing his thing for, it seems like forever, but he's been great every year. I just think Jared Goff stinks, and this team could be absolutely elite if they had someone not named Jared Goff. That's all I'm saying. But no, the Jets aren't going to win. They're going to go 0-16. Can we just talk about Adam Gase? Like, what is that guy on right now? I don't know. Like, this guy had no idea what he was talking about in the media. He clearly was calling the plays, and he kept on saying that Dow Logan's offensive coordinator was calling the plays, and the media is saying that we didn't see him with the clipboard. And he goes, it's not hard. It's not hard? How are you 0-11 if it's not hard? If it was simple, you would at least have 6 wins if it wasn't hard. Have you ever seen anything like this? Like, the New York media probably just loved it. Like, probably had a celebration after just going right in Adam Gase. He was getting all frozened up. I've never seen anything like it.
I have a question for the higher-ups and ownership of the New York Jets. Do you really want this stain on your history to continue any longer? I mean, come on. What is the point of keeping him around to the end of the season? Things are just getting worse and worse and worse. There are literally no excuses for an 0-11 start and what seems to be an inevitable 0-16 season. Just ask the Cleveland Browns. There's no excuse for what's going on over there. And Adam Gase, he's just living in an alternate reality from what we are all watching. It's just absolutely Space Caseville over there. Actually, there you go. Space Case, Adam Gase.
That's exactly right. Crazy Eyes is on a different planet. Every time you watch his press conferences, it's hard to even tell if it's real because a lot of times he doesn't answer the question at all, or he'll answer it in a manner like they didn't just score 3 points and like they scored 50, just berating the reporters, saying it's not that hard and that the offensive coordinator is calling the plays even though he doesn't have a play sheet. They aren't talking at all. And he's just like, we just give the quarterback 3 plays. It's not that hard. I mean, Adam Gase is – you got to say it's harder for him than anybody else.
I think, honestly, he's just a pathological liar, like with the media. He really is. And it's never about he made a mistake. It's like, oh, we just got to execute the plays better. That's like all he says. We got to execute better. No, what you got to do is get your head out of your ass and coach better. Have a game plan. Adjust your game plan. He makes 0 adjustments. And I feel like he has like all these plays. He has 10 plays, and then he just runs them over and over and over again. Like nothing changes. And Mac Daddy, you hit it on the head. Like, why are they keeping him around? I get it. He's going to go probably 0-16. They're just, licking their chops with Lawrence, probably most likely coming out of college. So I get that. But man, oh man.
Well, that's why, Joe. That's why they're keeping him around, to go 0-16. I understand and disagree with it in the fact that I think this will have long-lasting effects on that roster, right? Like that culture that was already dysfunctional is getting even worse. So you're going to need to bring in a major culture changer as your next head coach and really hope that Trevor Lawrence is absolutely the guy, which I know Nick thinks he is absolutely not.
I won't get into that right now. I don't want to get too far ahead into that. No, what I was going to say and bring up a point was after this year, I would almost guarantee, I think it's 95% certain that Adam Gase will never coach in the NFL again.
No. Hold on. No way. You mean in no capacity or just not as a
No, as a head coach. As a head coach. He will never be a head coach in the NFL again.
Again, I'm going to say no way, but for the opposite reason, because that number's 100%. 100% chance he will never be a head coach again. 100% chance.
He might be a clipboard holder. I heard he's pretty good at that because he did that whole lot of that on Sunday, but apparently he wasn't calling the plays. But yeah, 1,000%. I'm going to up you, Brian. 1,000% he'll never be a head coach. He may not be a Pop Warner head coach. Never mind an NFL head coach.
And honestly, I make the comparison to him and Ben McAdoo. Like after the debacle that was Ben McAdoo and on the New York Giants, you never heard from – I have never heard his name again.
Here's the question. What was worse, Ben McAdoo's mustache or Adam Gase's crazy eyes?
Dude, it is definitely McAdoo because parents had their kids imitating him in the stands.
I think it was Gates because as soon as he went in that press conference looking with those big eyes, every Jets fan in the world was probably like, we are screwed. Like literally. Like this is the guy who's going to supposedly build around our franchise quarterback in Sam Darnold. Oh my goodness. I think the Jets were like, we need a Ben McAdoo just so we can get made fun of more, just like the Giants. And it's terrible. And he'll never get a coaching job again. I kind of ended up that. And I wanted to kind of touch upon the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. Wow. Tyreek Hill had 203 yards in the first quarter because I remember I missed half of the game, the first quarter, and I look at my phone and I was like, is that a Madden stat? The dude went absolutely off. Mahomes went absolutely off. Brady, little too late. And then after the game, he walks off the podium as soon as he gets some controversial questions regarding Bruce Arians. And I'm going to turn this around. If the Buccaneers go one and done this year, should they fire Bruce Arians?
No, I don't think that they should fire him. Not that there isn't reason to question him, but because of the way this season is. It's a pandemic season with no off season and a new quarterback in. I think we've seen a big progression under Bruce Arians for his quarterbacks from year 1 to year 2. I would expect the same thing for Tom Brady, even though he will be 44 years old, which is absolutely insane. I'm not panicking if I'm a Buccaneers fan. They're set up to finish the season at least 3-1. I think we all can agree that they're going to be in the playoffs, but respect to Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid as well. That really was Madden out there. And I think the Bucs are more getting exposed for their defense. That back end that everybody was questioning going into the season has now reared its ugly head again, and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes had a field day.
I don't think that it's time to fire Bruce Arians, but there's definitely something behind the scenes that needs to be addressed, because the way that Arians addresses the questions in the media, it's not what I like to see from a relationship between a head coach and a quarterback. Bruce Arians is putting all the responsibility, such as the play calling and everything, on Brady, when he should be a coach and, at least taking some of the blame. Hey, I'm not doing this. Tom's not doing this, but I'm not doing this either. You like to see that kind of relationship between a quarterback and the head coach. That's just not what I'm seeing right now. So that, like Brian said, it's a pandemic season. These guys need some more time to get used to each other. Again, there's a lot of personality in that locker room. Antonio Brown, Gronkowski, Fournette, McCoy, Brady, Arians is his own personality. It's a lot to handle within one locker room, and I think they've done okay so far. The on-the-field product is probably not as great as everybody thought it was going to be, or as great as Tampa Bay thought it was going to be. I think they're headed to the playoffs, and let's see what they can get done in the playoffs. And by that time, if they have the chemistry they need to have to be a championship contender.
I'm worried about Arians, honestly. I think it's going to almost be LeBron James all over again, because what the Buccaneers should do is listen to old man Brady, because he's their only hope for a Super Bowl. After he retires, they're going to be back to square one. There's going to be no Gronk. There's going to be no AB. There's going to be no Brady. Whatever Brady wants, you do it, because he's your only hope to win anything. So if it's at the end of the year and they're still not having a good relationship, which it doesn't look like it, because you see it every week with the media, Arians is always almost just bashing into Brady. Not completely out of line, but you can tell he likes to take jabs at Brady. And that is something you never see Bill Belichick do. And behind the scenes, supposedly, they hated each other. But this guy's publicly doing it. And I think at the end of the year, if the Buccaneers go one and done or just don't do the damage that we expected from the beginning of the year, Brady should absolutely have the pull of whether he wants to move on with Arians or not. It may sound crazy, because even when Brady retires, is Arians really the solution? This is a guy who retired once before. Don't be surprised if he retires again. He's not a long-term solution. I don't see him as a long-term solution. If Brady wants him gone, the Buccaneers should want him gone.
It's an interesting thought. I think they're in a weird position because they're obviously in win now. What kind of head coach would you bring in to replace him? Are you going to try to bring in a Josh McDaniels from New England? Yep. Are you going to try to bring in – see, that's an interesting thought, but he was such a failure in Denver. I would be worried. I would hold tight. I would just hold tight. I think cooler heads will prevail in the end, and the Buccaneers will be just fine. Relax.
I think the bigger question here is, Joe, to rebuttal what you're saying, is it worth firing Bruce Arians for one more year, maybe two if you're squeaking it out of Tom Brady, and then you got to, go out and find your next quarterback anyway? I mean, is it really worth getting rid of Bruce Arians for good because, for another year of Tom Brady? That's what Tom Brady wants.
Well, right. Well, but if he really the long-term solution, though? I don't see him as really the long-term solution. Maybe. But
that's my point. We already know that Brady is not the long-term solution.
Here's the
question. He's going to be 70 in 2 years. That's old, man. That is very old.
Here's the question. Who's going to be a starting quarterback for longer? Tom Brady or Danny Dumps? Because my money's on Tom Brady. And I'm dead serious. Tom Brady is going to be a starting quarterback for longer than Mr. Dumps.
No way. That is the worst take I think I've ever heard you have, Brian.
I mean, long term, you really think – I think Tom Brady is going to be a starter for a minimum of this season and a full next season. And I think personally longer than that. I don't know if Danny Dumps is going to make it through the rest of this season and the next as the full-time starter for the Giants.
Who else would start for the Giants?
Justin Fields.
Well, they're not going to draft. That up. They're in first place now.
Yeah, they're not going to draft Justin Fields.
They should have, but they screwed that chance up.
No, they're going to ride with Daniel Jones, I'm telling you. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not arguing whether it's going to be good product or bad product on the field. I'm telling you right now, he's going to be there for at least another year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I still think Tom Brady is going to start in the league for more than just next year.
No way.
I
don't see that. I don't see that.
That invisible cliff has been out there for a long time. Don't ever count Brady out until he actually retires.
I'm not saying
that honestly. I mean, I'm going after Danny Dimes because you're the Giants fan. But I would say that for a decent amount of young quarterbacks. Like, are we sure Drew Lock is going to start for
Hell-
your game moving forward than Tom Brady. Are
Do
we
you
sure?
think Drew Lock is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones?
Very similar. You definitely will not be able to convince me that Danny Dimes is much better. You might be able to say, okay, fractionally, it's not a gap.
I'd say the last 4 weeks, he's definitely been the better quarterback. Like, he's separated himself from Drew Lock the last 4 weeks.
Potentially. Drew Lock will have some bad games. I'm not like a big Drew Lock believer. That's not exactly a high bar.
No, it's not. To get any good I can out of my Giants. They're in first place, although riding their defense, because their defense has played very well. But I can say they are the first place New York Giants. So
If Brady's still going to be the quarterback for a few more years, then why in the world wouldn't you want Bruce Arians as his head coach? That's what I'm saying. Like, because I think Brady could play until he's 46. Realistically, 2 more years. And that's crazy to even think that. Is he going to want to spend 3 years with Bruce Arians?
Maybe, maybe not. He's only under contract for 1 more year, right? So he may leave again. I just don't believe that the NFL is going to close the door on Tom Brady. And I think that's how some people are acting. Like, after next year, nobody's going to want Tom Brady. I really doubt that's going to happen. Now, of course, as Max Kellerman likes to remind us, that cliff does come eventually. And if he pulls the old neckhead noodle arm that we saw in Peyton Manning's last year, then the NFL might close the door on him. But I'm just not going to say it until we see it.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I want to stick with quarterbacks because this is rather almost humorous here with the New Orleans Saints and the Denver Broncos. So obviously we knew the drama. Jeff Driscoll, who was 4th-string quarterback, got everyone in contact of COVID-19 when he was diagnosed. So no Drew Lock, no Blake Bortles, no Brett Rypien. And the day before, they're stuck without a quarterback. So they had to call up their practice squad receiver, Kendall Hinton, who played for Wake Forest, to suddenly be their quarterback with 0 reps. And this was probably by far the worst total quarterback performance we have ever seen. There were 10 completions in 60 minutes. 10. And there were 3 interceptions and under 100 yards. That is the craziest thing I have ever seen. This is like Pop Warner football, literally under 100 yards, and almost half the time the ball was being thrown, it was intercepted. Why in the world did the NFL keep on rolling out these products? Like, they don't care about their product at this point. They care about the game being played. As you saw today, I mean, there was a Wednesday afternoon game. Do we agree with rolling these games out just because you want them to be played? Or should we just say, heck it, let's just make a week 18 and any game that comes across COVID should just get swapped there? Because these are just laughable at that point. We have a practice squad receiver. He's not even good enough to be in the league as a receiver, never mind playing quarterback.
I mean, personally, I think that it's fine that the NFL kept the schedule rolling. I think that's the mentality that they've had pretty much from the start. We've seen them be a little bit willing to push games back just a little bit, but not replace a whole week. And I think they made an example out of the Denver Broncos, whose quarterbacks blatantly didn't follow the rules. And it was confined just to their quarterback room. They had enough players to play, and the NFL was like, all right, you're an NFL team, get it together. And all respect to Kendall Hinton. I mean, the man was put out there without a single practice rep, played his butt off. I think one of the biggest takeaways from the game was just how big a gap it is from being a college quarterback to the NFL. Kendall Hinton was a college quarterback at Wake Forest in the ACC, a Power 5 conference, and he came in to play an NFL game, again, with no prep. But you could just tell that he looked like a guy who hadn't played quarterback since high school. Again, all due respect, Taysom Hill didn't exactly look all that much better either.
I got to be honest. Do I expect that game to be more competitive had I seen, let's say, Blake Bortles or Drew Lock in there instead of Kendall Hinton? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but that Saints defense and the rushing attack was just all over Denver that day. I don't think Denver competes with New Orleans on their best day or on New Orleans' worst day. To be honest, I think we've seen New Orleans separate themselves from a lot of the competition in the National Football League through, with their defense and with their offense and the ability to run the football, get the ball in the end zone. Taysom Hill did have another couple rushing touchdowns. Like you guys have mentioned, did not throw the ball well at all. Not nearly as well as he did the week before. So, and as far as what the NFL does with their COVID games and their COVID schedules and everything being thrown around this year, I don't know that any of us can tell them what to do, but I know that I don't like seeing this product as a fan, but also I get where they're coming from as a business and, where they're protecting the health and the safety of their staff and their players and their families. I get all that. Would I have rather seen Ben Roethlisberger versus Lamar Jackson week 18 instead of what I saw today? 100%, because I know it would have been a much more high octane game. Just like I know that it would have been a little more competitive had maybe a different starting quarterback been in there for Denver. But am I upset about it? No. Would I like to see it handled a different way? Maybe. But again, I don't run the business, so.
I agree. Broncos aren't a great team. They still would have got smoked. I don't care who's playing quarterback. And I'm not someone who's like every time a game is canceled or isn't, I'm not going to go and scream about it. I get it. Like the NFL's in a weird spot. We don't know how to deal with this, and neither does anyone else. So the people that complain that they're not handling it well, then what does handling it well mean? I don't know what handling it well is. Everybody's dealing with this, and so I can't go and just blame the NFL for all this. It's not their fault. It's very inconvenient. It's a weird time. We've never dealt with this, and yeah, you have to make some changes. I don't think that there's anything really bad that they've been doing. They're fining players for not wearing masks. They're doing the right protocols that they know what to do at this point. So I'm not going to be pissed off because they didn't cancel the Broncos game and they canceled the Ravens game. But I know there's a lot of people that are just going after the NFL just to do it. But what is the right way? Is there a right way? No. And yeah, it does stink as a fan, but the Broncos and the Saints wasn't a hyped up game. I get the Ravens and the Steelers is a little different. It's a difficult time. We're lucky we're even having the season. That's kind of what I look at this point.
That's exactly right. And just as we're talking about the Saints a little bit, I've got a question for you guys because this is something that I've continued to see. The Saints still held up as a Super Bowl contender without Drew Brees. Do you guys think that the Saints are still the NFC favorite even though Drew Brees went down?
I think defensively, their defense could keep them up there, but honestly, Green Bay looks really good right now if they can, shore some things up defensively, and I think Seattle is finding something, finding a rhythm there on the defensive side of the ball as well. So those are going to be the Saints' two biggest teams to compete with them. And I think it's going to come down to Green Bay, Seattle, and New Orleans for that NFC spot.
Yeah, to be honest, it's unpredictable who's going to win the NFC. And I feel like I've always say this is the Saints year. And then it never seems to be. But this is the weirdest Saints year we've seen. Definitely. Like Taysom Hill is playing quarterback now. Breeze went down again. I could see it. I definitely can see that they can still be a Super Bowl contender no matter what. I think they're showing it. Without Breeze, they're still winning. Everyone thought that they were just going to lose against the Falcons, and they come in and they blow them out. I'm going to take the Saints right now. Breeze has a lot around him, and we're seeing it. You have a great running back. You have great weapons, and Taysom Hill is managing. He's managing the game. I know he didn't throw the ball at all, but they still scored 31 points. I mean, they had all their defenders. The Broncos, they weren't playing Kendall Hinton on defense, and they still scored 31 points. So I'm going to go with the Saints right now.
Well, for me, the Saints are not a viable Super Bowl contender until they get Drew Brees back. I just don't think that we see Taysom Hill lead the Saints to victories over Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, among others. Honestly, even Tom Brady. But you mentioned the Falcons really quick. One interesting thing about the Falcons, they're a good team, just not every week, right? Like some weeks they're really good, and then other weeks they are absolutely awful. One other thing that I feel like we've got to touch on. My Titans take on the Browns. What version of Baker do we see?
The version we always see, and that is just being the most mediocre quarterback ever. Literally. And I want to just shout out to Baker Mayfield to actually passing Dak Prescott in passing yards last week, who has been on the IR since week 5. Congratulations. And you barely beat the Jaguars by 2 points. I think the Titans are going to roll over them, man. They really are. Like, they have, like, all the momentum now. And I talked about last week that it always seems like the Titans are playing these games down the wire, and they're good finishers. But this is the game they needed. They needed that blowout. Show everyone that they're contenders. And I really think they are contenders in the AFC. I'm not going to say they're going to beat the Chiefs, but they're a team to be worried about. And I think they're going to stomp on Baker Mayfield's mouth. Like, literally. He's going to throw his 3 interceptions, and he's going to continue to stink versus good teams.
No doubt. Derrick Henry in December absolutely eats I hope that continues into January. But all I got to say for Baker Mayfield is he better pack a diaper when he travels to Nashville.
He's got a double pack diapers, but absolutely. Looking forward to that one. Looking forward to more Baker Mayfield jokes next week. But this is going to wrap it up with Married to the Game again. I am Joe Skirtle alongside Brian Bolster and Nick Mac Daddy Mac. Until next week, so long.